I thought I was being smart. Keep it simple, keep it light, keep it temporary. 3 weeks in Thailand. A beautiful woman who understood the rules. And then back to my real life in Melbourne. But somewhere between the beach dinners and the late-night conversations, I forgot the most important rule about holiday romances. The locals always know the game better than you do. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. I landed in Bangkok on a Tuesday morning in March, carrying nothing but a backpack and what I thought was a foolproof plan. 3 weeks in Thailand, solo travel, clear boundaries, no complications. At 52, I'd been through enough relationship drama to last 3 lifetimes. My divorce from Sarah had been finalized 6 months earlier, and I was done with serious commitments. Done with joint bank accounts and shared mortgages and fights about whose turn it was to take out the bins. I wanted something clean, something honest, something that ended when my plane took off. The plan was simple. Enjoy the beaches, eat good food, maybe meet someone for casual company. Nothing more. I'd read enough expat horror stories to know the rules. Don't fall in love. Don't send money. Don't make promises you can't keep. Keep it light. Keep it fun. Keep it temporary. I took the bus from Bangkok down to Pattaya, watching the countryside roll past through tinted windows, rice fields and palm trees and roadside stalls selling fruit I couldn't name. It felt like freedom. For the first time in years, nobody knew where I was. Nobody was expecting me home for dinner. Nobody was checking my phone or asking about my day. The hotel was exactly what I'd booked, mid-range, clean, close to the beach. Nothing fancy, but comfortable enough for a middle-aged Australian electrician on vacation. I unpacked my few belongings, showered off the travel sweat, and headed down to find some food. That's when I saw her. She was sitting alone at a beachside restaurant, picking at a plate of pad thai, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Long black hair, simple white dress, no makeup that I could see. She looked peaceful, real. Not like the bar girls I'd been warned about, not like the working women who haunted the tourist areas. Our eyes met across the restaurant. She smiled, not the practiced, calculated smile of someone working an angle, but something shy and genuine, something that made my chest tighten in a way I hadn't felt in years. I should have looked away. Should have finished my beer and found somewhere else to eat. Should have remembered my own rules about keeping things simple. Instead, I walked over and asked if she minded some company. "I'm Kaman," she said, and her voice was soft, musical. "I'm Brett," I replied, and sat down across from her. That was my first mistake. The next 2 weeks felt like a dream I didn't want to wake up from. Kaman worked at a small boutique hotel near the beach, not as a bar girl or escort, but as a receptionist. She spoke decent English, better than my non-existent Thai, and she had this laugh that made me feel like the funniest man alive. She was 28, had grown up in a small village north of Bangkok, and was saving money to help support her parents. We fell into an easy routine. I'd meet her after work, and we'd explore Pattaya together. She showed me places tourists never see, local markets where vendors grilled fish over charcoal, temples where old men played chess in the shade, beaches where families brought their children to splash in the waves. "You're different," she told me one evening as we walked along the water. "Most Farang men who come here, they want different things." I knew what she meant. I'd seen them, the older Western men with their young Thai girlfriends, the bar scene, the sex tourism that everyone pretended didn't exist. The whole thing made me uncomfortable. "I'm not looking for that," I said. "I just want to enjoy your company." She squeezed my hand. "I know. That's why I like you." We kissed that night on the beach, waves washing over our feet, and it felt like something from a movie, pure and simple and honest. She tasted like coconut and salt air, and when she pulled back, her eyes were bright with something I couldn't name. "I wish you weren't leaving," she whispered. "I wish I wasn't either," I said, and meant it. But I was leaving. That was the plan. That was the safety net. 3 weeks. Then back to Melbourne. Back to my real life. No complications, no messy endings. Just a beautiful memory to carry with me. We made love that night in my hotel room, and it was gentle and sweet and everything I'd forgotten sex could be. Afterward, she traced patterns on my chest with her finger and talked about her dreams, opening her own hotel someday, traveling to Australia to see the opera house, maybe learning to surf. Someday, she said, and I almost believed it was possible. I should have seen the warning signs, should have noticed how quickly she'd moved from stranger to girlfriend, should have asked more questions about her life, her past, her real motivations, but I was too busy falling in love. 3 days before my flight home, Kaman suggested we get married. We were having breakfast at a small cafe near her hotel, sharing mango, sticky rice and strong coffee, when she brought it up. Casual, like she was suggesting we visit another temple. Brett, I was thinking, maybe we should make this official. I nearly choked on my coffee. Official? Oh, marriage, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. We could do it here, in Thailand. Very simple, very easy. Then when you go back to Australia, you can sponsor me for visa. My stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't keeping it simple and light and temporary. Come on, one. We've only known each other 2 weeks. I know. She reached across the table, took my hand. But I feel something special with you. Something real. Don't you feel it too? I did feel it. That was the problem. 2 weeks with this woman had made me happier than 2 years with my ex-wife. She made me laugh, made me feel young again, made me remember what it was like to want someone who seemed to want me back. I care about you, I said carefully. But marriage, that's a big step. Not so big, she said, and her voice had a slight edge now. In Thailand, very easy. We go to district office, sign papers. You help me get visa. I come to Australia. We see what happens. If it doesn't work out. She shrugged. At least we tried. I stared at her across the table. She was beautiful in the morning light, hair falling over her shoulder, eyes wide and hopeful. Everything in me wanted to say yes, to be the hero in her story, to give her the life she dreamed of. I need to think about it, I said. Something flickered across her face. Disappointment, maybe. Or something darker. But it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Of course, she said, and smiled. You're careful, man. That's good. But don't think too long, okay? You leave soon. The pressure in those words was subtle, but real. Time was running out. Decision time was coming whether I was ready or not. That night, alone in my hotel room, I stared at the ceiling and tried to figure out what the hell I was doing. I said yes the next morning, not because I'd figured anything out, but because the alternative, walking away from the most genuine connection I'd felt in years, seemed worse than the risk. Really? Kamon's face lit up when I told her. You want to marry me? I want to try, I said. I want to see where this goes. She threw her arms around me, and I felt her body shake with what might have been relief or joy or something else entirely. The process was surprisingly straightforward. We went to the district office in Pattaya, filled out forms I couldn't read, paid fees I didn't understand. Kaman translated everything, guided me through each step. She seemed to know exactly what to do, which documents to bring, which office to visit. Have you done this before? I asked, trying to keep my voice light. No, she said quickly. But my friend, she married Australian man last year. She told me the process. We were married on a Thursday afternoon in a government office that smelled like disinfectant and old paper. No ceremony, no vows, just signatures and stamps and official documents in Thai and English. The whole thing took maybe an hour. That's it? I asked as we walked out into the humid afternoon air. That's it, Kaman said. We're married now. She showed me the certificate, our names printed in official lettering, dated and stamped. Mrs. Kaman Henderson, it said. I stared at the paper, trying to process what I'd just done. Are you happy? She asked, and there was something vulnerable in her voice. I think so, I said, and pulled her close. Yeah, I'm happy. We celebrated with dinner at a fancy restaurant overlooking the beach. Kaman wore a new dress, white, simple, beautiful. She looked radiant, kept showing our marriage certificate to the waitress, kept calling me husband, like she was trying out the word. When I get visa, she said over champagne, I want to learn to cook Australian food. I want to make you happy in your country. You already make me happy, I said, and meant it. But as I watched her carefully fold the marriage certificate and put it in her purse, something nagged at me. The way she'd handled the paperwork, the way she'd known exactly what to do, the way she'd suggested this whole thing in the first place, I pushed the doubts away. I was married now. Time to stop second-guessing and start believing. The next month was a blur of paperwork and phone calls and learning how to be a married man from 12,000 kilometers away. I flew back to Melbourne as scheduled, but everything felt different now. My empty apartment, my routine, my job, it all seemed temporary, like I was just marking time until my real life could begin, the life where Kaman would be with me. She called every day, sometimes twice. The time difference meant she was usually starting her day when I was ending mine, but we made it work. She'd tell me about her job, about the visa documents she was gathering, about how much she missed me. I have good news, she said one evening, her voice crackling through the international connection. I quit my job at hotel. You quit? Why? So I can focus on visa application. My friend, she helped me with documents. English translation, all the forms. Very complicated, but we figure it out. I felt a stab of worry. Are you okay for money? I can send you some. No, I'm fine. I have savings, and my family help a little bit. But a week later, she called with different news. Brett, I'm sorry, but I have problem. Document translation very expensive. More than I thought. And I need medical examination for visa. Also expensive. The worry in her voice was real, and it made my chest tighten. How much do you need? Maybe $2,000. I'm sorry to ask. I know we married very fast. You don't know me so well. But I pay you back when I come to Australia, I promise. $2,000. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't everything either. And she was my wife now, wasn't she? Helping her was just what married people did. I'll transfer it tomorrow, I said. Really? You're sure? Of course. We're in this together now. The relief in her voice was palpable. Thank you, Brett. I love you so much. I can't wait to be with you. I wired the money the next day, and she called to confirm she'd received it. Everything was on track, she said. The visa application would be submitted soon. I went to bed that night feeling like a good husband, like I was building something real with someone who needed me. I had no idea what was really being built. The first red flag should have been the photos. 2 months after I got back to Melbourne, Kaman started posting pictures on Facebook. Not pictures of us together. She'd never been much for social media during our time in Thailand. New pictures. Professional-looking shots of her in expensive clothes, at fancy restaurants, with groups of friends I'd never heard her mention. When I asked about them during our daily call, she seemed surprised. Oh, those old photos. My friend, she photographer. She take those pictures long time ago. Just post them now. They look recent, I said. That restaurant? Wasn't it just opened? No. Very old restaurant. Maybe you confused. Maybe I was. The internet connection made everything feel distant and unclear. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then there was the money. 3 weeks after the first transfer, she needed more. Visa application fees, she said. Then it was medical examination costs. Then legal fees for document processing. Never huge amounts, 500 here, 800 there. Always with a reasonable explanation, always with promises to pay me back. "I'm sorry to keep asking," she said during one call, and I could hear tears in her voice. "I know you work hard for your money, but visa process, it's more complicated than we thought. More expensive." "It's okay," I said. Because what else could I say? She was my wife. She was trying to get to Australia to be with me. Of course it was expensive and complicated. My brother David thought I was losing my mind. "Mate, you married someone you knew for 2 weeks," he said over beers one Friday night. "Now you're sending her money every month. You don't see the problem here." "It's not every month," I said. "And it's for the visa. It's an investment in our future." "Your future with a woman you've spent less than a month with total?" I wanted to explain about the connection we'd had, about how real it felt, about how she made me feel like a better version of myself. But sitting in a Melbourne pub, surrounded by the familiar sounds and smells of home, it was hard to recapture that magic. "You don't understand," I said. "It's not like that with her. She's different." David just shook his head. "Famous last words, mate. Famous last words." By month 4, the daily phone calls had become weekly. By month 5, they were sporadic at best. "I'm very busy with visa documents," Kaman explained when I complained about not hearing from her. "Always at government office. Always filling forms. Very stressful." I tried to be understanding. Immigration was notorious for being a nightmare, especially for Thai nationals trying to get Australian visas, but something felt off about her explanations. They were too vague, too rehearsed. "Which office are you going to?" I asked one evening. "Maybe I can help from this end. Call the Australian embassy or something." No. Better I handle here. Thai people, we know how system works. You call, maybe make problem." The dismissal stung. I was trying to help, trying to be a good husband, but she was shutting me out. Meanwhile, the money requests continued. Emergency dental work. Her mother's medical bills. Visa interview preparation costs. Each request came with apologetic explanations and promises to pay me back. When I come to Australia, by the 6-month mark, I'd sent over $8,000. Not enough to bankrupt me, but enough to make me check my bank balance with increasing anxiety. I started doing research. Called the Australian Immigration Department myself, trying to understand the process. The woman I spoke to was helpful but confused. "Spouse visa applications from Thailand typically take 6 to 8 months, she said. "But I don't see any application under that name in our system. Maybe it's still being processed locally?" "And I suggested. "Sir, all applications are filed directly with us. If she started the process, we'd have a record." The conversation left me shaken. When I called Kaman that night, she sounded tired, distracted. "The application, it's not in the system yet," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Oh yes, we submit soon. Maybe next week. Process very slow here." "But you said you submitted it 2 months ago." A pause. "No, I said we prepare to submit. Language barrier. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe I had. Maybe my paranoia was getting the better of me. Maybe the stress of long-distance marriage was making me imagine problems that didn't exist. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to remember exactly what she'd said about the visa, about the money, about her life in Thailand. The more I thought about it, the less anything made sense. I hired a private investigator in Bangkok, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't live with the questions anymore. His name was Somchai, and he specialized in what he delicately called relationship verification services. His English was perfect, his rates reasonable, his approach professional. He'd seen this before. He told me, over email. Many times. "What exactly do you want to know?" he asked. "Everything," I said. "Where she lives, what she does, whether she's actually applying for a visa, whether she's married to anyone else." The last part came out before I could stop it. The possibility had been eating at me for weeks, that I might not be her first Western husband, that this might be a routine for her. "I'll need a week," Somchai said. "Maybe 2. I'll send you a complete report." Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Every time Kaman called, her voice sounded different to me, more calculated, more distant. When she asked for money for final visa fees, I made excuses, said I was having cash flow problems at work. "But it's only $1,500, she said, and there was an edge to her voice I'd never heard before. "We so close now. Don't you want me to come to Australia?" "Of course I do," I said. "I just need to wait until next month." Next month might be too late. They say application must be complete by end of this month, or we start over. The pressure felt familiar now. The artificial urgency, the emotional manipulation. I'd been here before, multiple times, and I'd fallen for it every time. "I'll see what I can do," I said, and hung up. Somchai's report arrived on a Tuesday morning, 47 pages, with photographs and documentation, and a summary that made my stomach turn. Kaman Sutisak, not her real name, apparently, lived in an upscale condo in Bangkok, not a small village like she'd told me. She worked sporadically at various hotels, but not as a receptionist. She'd been married to 2 other Western men in the past 3 years, one German, one British. Both divorces had been finalized within months of the marriages. There were photos of her with other men, recent photos, taken in restaurants and hotels around Bangkok, different clothes, different poses, but the same smile, the same calculated warmth I'd fallen for. The visa application had never been submitted, had never even been started. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the report, feeling like the world's biggest fool. I called her that night, report spread across my kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. "Brett," her voice was bright, cheerful. "I was just about to call you. I have good news about visa." "Cut the shit, come on. I know." The silence stretched between us, international connection crackling with static and tension. "Know what?" she said finally, but her voice had changed. Cooler, more careful. "I know about the other husbands. I know about the condo in Bangkok. I know there's no visa application." Another pause. When she spoke again, all pretense was gone. "So, what do you want to do about it?" The casual cruelty of her response hit me like a physical blow. No denials, no explanations, no apologies. Just cold acceptance that the game was over. "I want my money back," I said. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Your money? You gave me that money. Gift from husband to wife. Very legal. Very proper. You lied to me. About everything." "I never lied. I said I wanted to come to Australia." "That's true. I said I needed money for visa." "That's true too. Even if I didn't apply yet." "You're married to other people. Divorced now. All legal. You want to see papers?" I felt like I was arguing with a stranger. The warm, vulnerable woman I'd fallen in love with had vanished completely, replaced by someone cold and calculating and utterly without remorse. "You used me," I said. "You used me too," she shot back. "You wanted pretty young Thai wife. I gave you pretty young Thai wife. You wanted to feel important, like big man helping poor girl. I gave you that too. Everyone got what they wanted. I loved you." Love. She said the word like it tasted bad. "You loved idea of me. You loved feeling like hero. You didn't love me. You didn't even know me." She was right. And that made it worse. I'd created an entire relationship in my head, built a future with someone who existed only in my imagination. "I'm filing for divorce," I said. "Good," she said. "Send me papers when ready." I sign. "No problem. Maybe you find next wife who appreciate you more." The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by evidence of my own stupidity, and tried to figure out how to tell my brother he'd been right all along. Getting divorced from someone in Thailand while living in Australia turned out to be almost as complicated as getting married had been simple. My lawyer, a patient woman named Jennifer who'd clearly seen this before, explained the process over coffee and legal documents that made my head spin. "Mutual consent divorce is the easiest option," she said. "If she agrees to sign the papers, we can process it through Thai courts relatively quickly, 6 months, maybe less. And if she doesn't agree, then it gets complicated. And expensive." I'd already spent over $10,000 on Kaman. The thought of spending more on lawyers to undo what I'd done made my stomach churn. She said she'd sign. I told Jennifer. At least she said that. People say a lot of things during emotional conversations. I'd recommend having someone in Thailand serve the papers directly, make sure she understands what she's signing. More money. More complications. More reminders of how thoroughly I'd screwed up my life. The paperwork alone was overwhelming. Sworn statements. Asset disclosures. Evidence of the marriage being legitimate. Ironic, given what I now knew. Everything had to be translated, notarized, certified. The Thai legal system worked differently than Australia's, and every difference meant delays and additional costs. "One more thing," Jennifer said, as I was leaving her office. "You mentioned sending her money during the marriage. If she contests the divorce, she might argue for spousal support or a share of your assets. She can't be serious. Money makes people do strange things, Brett. I'd document everything, every transfer, every conversation, every lie she told. If this gets ugly, you'll need proof." I spent the next week going through bank statements, phone records, emails, building a case against my own wife. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was living in someone else's nightmare. The worst part was the shame. Every document I gathered, every lie I uncovered, every dollar I added to the total, it all pointed to the same conclusion. I'd been played by a professional, and I'd been too desperate for connection to see it happening. My brother was kind enough not to say, "I told you so," but I could see it in his eyes every time we talked. The divorce papers came back unsigned, not rejected, not contested, just ignored. Kaman had apparently moved from the address we'd served, leaving no forwarding information. The process server had tried 3 times over 2 weeks. But the condo was empty. "This is actually fairly common," Jennifer explained over the phone. "Some people think if they ignore the papers, the problem goes away." "So, what do? We file for contested divorce. It takes longer, costs more, but we can proceed without her signature. More money, more time, more reminders of my own stupidity. But then Somchai called with news that changed everything. "I found something interesting," he said. "Your wife. She's not just married to other foreigners. She's married to Thai man too. Local businessman. They've been married for 5 years." The room seemed to tilt sideways. "That's impossible. She can't be married to multiple people. In Thailand, very difficult for government to track. Different districts, different names. She uses 3 different identity documents. All legal, all official. 3 different identities, multiple marriages. I wasn't just a victim of romance fraud. I was part of a systematic operation." "How many men?" I asked. "That I found? 7 foreigners, 1 Thai. Maybe more. 7. I was one of 7 men who'd thought they were special, who'd believed they'd found something real with this woman." The investigation continued. Bank records showed money flowing not just to Kaman, but to a network of associates. Other women running similar operations. Men who facilitated the marriages, provided false documents, managed the logistics. "It's business," Somchai explained. "Very organized, very professional. They target lonely foreign men, usually recently divorced, usually middle-aged. Success rate? Very high. Success rate? Most men pay for a year, maybe 2, before they realize truth. Average amount? $15,000 to $20,000. Your case? Actually quite small. I should have felt better knowing I wasn't alone, that I wasn't uniquely stupid. Instead, I felt worse. I'd been reduced to a demographic, a target market, a statistic in someone else's business plan. What happens to the money? I asked. Property investment, mostly. Cars, condos, jewelry. Some goes to family, some to other operations. Very little ever recovered. I was never getting my money back. The woman I'd married had never existed. And somewhere in Thailand, people were probably laughing about the stupid Australian who'd fallen for the oldest trick in the book. The full scope of the operation became clear over the following weeks. As Somchai's investigation deepened and Jennifer navigated the legal implications. Kaman, whose real name was apparently Plaiwan Srisuk, was part of a network that had been operating for over a decade. They had connections in hotels, travel agencies, even government offices that helped process the fraudulent marriage documents. The woman I'd met by chance at that beachside restaurant had been working, following a script, playing a role. The targeting is very sophisticated, Somchai explained during one of our video calls. They identify men before they even arrive. Hotel bookings, travel patterns, social media activity. They know who to approach and when. You're saying she knew about me before we met? Almost certainly. Divorced, middle-aged, traveling alone, staying at tourist hotel. Perfect target profile. Even our chance meeting had been orchestrated. The shy smile, the simple dress, the way she'd seemed different from the other women, all calculated to appeal to someone like me. Someone desperate to believe he'd found something authentic. What about the others? I asked. The other husbands? Similar stories. All believed they were special, all sent money, all got divorced when they figured out the truth. One man, he lost $40,000 over 2 years. The Thai businessman, she was actually married to own several properties around Bangkok and Pattaya. He was, according to Somchai, likely the organizer of the whole operation. The foreign marriages were just income streams, ways to fund an increasingly lavish lifestyle. Does she feel anything about this? I asked. Any guilt? Any remorse? Somchai was quiet for a moment. In my experience, Mr. Henderson, people who do this for living, they learn not to feel. It's just business. You were never person to her. Just opportunity. That hurt more than the money, more than the lies, more than the legal complications. I'd bared my soul to someone who'd never seen me as human. The divorce papers were finally served through publication in a Thai newspaper, a legal maneuver that allowed the process to continue without her signature. After 8 months of marriage and 3 months of legal proceedings, I was officially single again. But the damage was done. To my bank account, to my pride, to my ability to trust my own judgment. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I still checked my bank account obsessively. Not because I expected to see the money returned, I knew that wasn't happening, but because I needed to remind myself of what I'd lost, what I'd given away to someone who'd never cared about me at all. The total damage, $12,847 in direct transfers, plus legal fees, plus the cost of the investigation. Close to $18,000 for a 3-week fantasy and a lesson in human nature I'd never asked for. My brother David tried to help me put it in perspective. Think of it as tuition, he said over lunch one Saturday. Expensive education, but you learn something valuable. What did I learn exactly? That you're capable of falling in love again, that you want connection, companionship. That's not a bad thing, mate. Maybe he was right. Maybe somewhere in the wreckage of my marriage to Kaman, there was something worth salvaging. But mostly, I just felt foolish. The hardest part was the isolation. I couldn't talk to most people about what had happened without seeing that look in their eyes, the mixture of pity and judgment that said, "How could you be so stupid?" Even well-meaning friends would say things like, "You should have known better," or, "The signs were obvious." But the signs weren't obvious. That was the point. Professional romance fraudsters are professional because they're good at it. They know how to make you feel special, how to bypass your defenses, how to make you believe you've found something real. I started seeing a therapist. Not because I was broken, but because I needed to understand how I'd let this happen. How someone who considered himself reasonably intelligent and worldly had been so completely taken in. Loneliness makes us vulnerable, Dr. Mitchell explained during one of our sessions. After your divorce, you were looking for validation, for proof that you were still capable of being loved. She provided that, temporarily. But I wasn't just lonely. I was careful. I had rules. Rules you abandoned the moment someone made you feel good about yourself. She was right. I'd gone to Thailand with boundaries and left them all behind the moment a beautiful woman smiled at me and called me different from other men. The shame was overwhelming some days. But slowly, gradually, I was learning to live with it. A year later, I can finally tell this story without my voice shaking. I'm not the same person who got on that plane to Bangkok. That guy was naive, desperate, and convinced he could control every situation by making the right rules. He believed in simple solutions and clean endings. He thought he was smarter than everyone else's mistakes. This guy, the one telling you this story, knows better. I haven't been on another overseas trip since Thailand. Haven't been on many dates either, if I'm being honest. The few times I've tried, I've found myself analyzing everything, every smile, every laugh, every story about childhood or dreams or the future, looking for the calculation behind the warmth. You can't live like that, David tells me. You can't suspect every woman of being a con artist. He's right. But knowing that intellectually and feeling it emotionally are different things. Trust, once broken that completely, doesn't repair itself overnight. I did learn things, though, about myself, about loneliness, about the difference between being alone and being lonely. I learned that desperation makes you stupid, that vulnerability can be both a strength and a weakness, that love and need aren't the same thing. I learned that some people see kindness as weakness, that not everyone operates from the same moral framework, that the world is full of people who will take advantage of your best intentions. But I also learned that surviving something like this doesn't have to make you bitter. It can make you wiser, more careful, more appreciative of genuine connection when it comes. Last month, I met someone at a coffee shop near my apartment. Her name is Susan. She's a nurse. She's been divorced for 3 years. We talked for 2 hours about books and travel and what it's like to start over in middle age. When she gave me her number, I didn't see calculation in her eyes. I saw the same careful hope I was feeling, 2 people who'd been hurt before, testing the waters, taking it slow. We've been on 4 dates. Real dates, in Melbourne, with no visa applications or emergency expenses or stories that don't quite add up. She pays for her own coffee, has her own life, asks about mine without seeming to catalogue my assets. It's different. Quieter. Less intoxicating than what I felt with Kaman, but more real, more sustainable. I was married to someone who turned out to be completely different than who I thought they were. I told Susan on our 3rd date, giving her the sanitized version. "Aren't we all?" she said, and there was understanding in her voice. Not judgment, not pity, just recognition. Maybe that's what healing looks like, not forgetting what happened, but learning to trust your judgment again, learning to see red flags without seeing them everywhere, learning that being careful doesn't have to mean being closed off. I still think about Kaman sometimes. Wonder if she's moved on to other victims, other lonely Western men who think they've found something special. Wonder if she ever thinks about the lives she's damaged, the trust she's broken. Mostly, though, I try not to think about her at all. The money is gone. The marriage is over. The man who flew to Bangkok looking for a simple holiday romance learned that nothing about human connection is ever simple. But I'm still here, still believing that somewhere out there is someone worth the risk of trusting again. Someone real. Just maybe not in a tourist restaurant. In Pattaya.